Hey, it's Justin from CanadaWhips.ca, and this is the overhead crack. The overhead crack is one of the first cracks that I learned, and I still think it's really cool. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do it, fix some common problems, and then go over a couple fun variations for you to try once you know how to do the move. The overhead crack is a basic whip crack where the whip cracks in front of you and the crack happens over your head. The whip starts out spinning in one direction, clockwise if you're left-handed, counterclockwise if you're right-handed, and then ends spinning in the opposite direction. So counterclockwise if you're left-handed and clockwise if you're right-handed. Take your dominant hand and just swing the whip around like this. Really try to get a nice long reach with the arm. You want your whole arm and the whip handle to act as one long piece. A lot of folks when they're starting will spin the whip just with the wrist like this, but you're not going to get enough force to get a nice crack that way. Instead, you want to get your whole arm involved so you can get a nice, loud, strong crack. When you're swinging the whip, try and keep your arm relatively low. You'd like it to be at about shoulder height in front of you, and then as it goes over your head, obviously your hand will have to go over your head. Try and keep your palm parallel with the ground when it's in front of you. So my palm is facing down the entire time it's in front of me. Step 2 is waiting. So after we've done this spin, we're going to need to pause and wait so that the whip can form a nice loop above our head. So we're going to practice just that by holding our hand right about here. So take your hand that's not cracking, stretch it out as far as it'll go, put your thumb on your forehead this way. Then put your hand so it's touching your pinky finger like this, and that's about the distance you're going to want to be hanging out. Also, take a note at the way the handle's pointing. You want it to point up so the handle is just above your head like this. Your hand should stay at about forehead height, but the handle should be up above your head. That way, when you're swinging, your hand can stay low, but the whip can still pass right over your head. So just get used to this position. Step 3 is where you change directions in order to make the crack. So we're going to be doing step 1, lots of spinning, whole arm is involved. Step 2, we're going to pause at our spot right here. We're going to let the whip go and travel just behind us so that it's kind of over our head this way. And then we're going to change direction and go out the other way. So if you were spinning in counterclockwise this way, you're going to pause and then spin out the other way. So we're spinning in. A lot of folks find this really scary because the whip is going to want to hit them or they just can't really see what's going on. But the key is really keeping that handle up, like I mentioned, and that way the whip is always going to be passing by you. And then also just pulling out the same way that we went in. So trying to keep a nice parallel circle like this, parallel with the ground, and then reversing and keeping that parallel circle. If you're spinning in a circle and then you pull down diagonally, the whip is going to want to hit you because you're kind of pulling it down in towards you. Likewise, if you pull it up, same thing, you kind of have to go down in order to pull it up, so you're going to hit yourself. But if you keep it parallel with the ground this whole time and keep the handle pointing up above your head, it should pass right over you. When you're doing this reverse direction, don't pull too hard. Don't really give it as much muscle as you can. Really, we're just focused on technique here. Get a nice strong swing, pause, and just pull it out gently that way. Just enough so that the whip is going to pass by your head, but not make you lose any form or technique. All right, so we've covered how to do the crack. Now let's help stop you from hitting yourself. First thing that we want to do, as I said before, keep a nice big swing, okay? The more arm you have, the louder and stronger the crack is going to be. Second thing, we're keeping that handle pointing up slightly towards the sky. Not all the way, like a helicopter, but more like this. Just a gentle kind of upward slope, especially as it's coming into our cracking position. And that way, the whip should pass over our head. The third thing, we want to make sure our timing is good, okay? We're not going here and then immediately pulling out. because that's going to make the whip kind of jitter and you're not going to be able to predict it. Instead, we're going to go here, pause, wait for the handle to be pointing out this way and the thong to have come behind us, and then swing out. There's a couple different ways to know when the thong's in the right spot. The first is, once you've swung and stopped, the thong will keep moving and you'll feel a little bit of a pull on the handle because the thong's momentum is going that way, right? So once you've stopped and you feel some tension, that's when you know it's time to pull it out again. The other thing you can do if you're in a quiet spot is actually listen to the whip swinging around over your head. So it's making like a whew, 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 right, as it's spinning. And the right time is after the woo. So it goes whew, 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 right? Whew, boom, whew, boom. And I know that's really silly, but it totally works. Okay, so we've covered the timing, we've covered having the handle up. The only other thing we need to make sure of is that your whip is coming out nice and parallel when you crack it. We're trying to keep our arm parallel with the swing inwards and parallel with the swing outwards. Keep your palm flat, facing the ground like this. And if you've done all the other things that I've mentioned, you should be doing the overhead crack. Now it's time to reduce all the extra swings that are beforehand. So instead of swinging and swinging and swinging and then cracking, try and just swing once and then crack. Or if you're really confident, do it without swinging at all. Once you can do that, it's time to learn some variations. One of them is called the body wrap. It looks like this. To do this, we're going to swing up for our overhead, but instead of keeping our hand high, we're going to put it low. We're going to point the handle downwards towards our body. The whip is going to wrap around us, and we're going to duck our head through this hole, peel it off, and then get the crack. Another variation is moving the whip behind your back, passing it from side to side. Once you can do the overhead crack in both hands, just crack it, bring it behind you, switch your hands, and do the crack. And the last trick with the overhead crack is we're going to do a body wrap and add a spin. So instead of just doing our body wrap and crack, we're going to do the body wrap. As we're unwrapping, we're going to spin our body the same way and then do the crack. And that's a really flashy way to end a routine. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to learn more about whip cracking, check out the website, CanadaWhips.ca, or some of the YouTube videos on this channel. I'll see you again.